The sound cracked through the dining room, sharp and sudden, like a dry branch snapping in winter. It wasn't loud, but it silenced everything. It silenced the soft music, the clink of silverware, and the polite, forced laughter. Her son, Jordan, slapped her across the face in front of the entire family. Ruth Langley, a 68-year-old retired teacher and widow, didn't cry. She didn't even flinch. She simply staggered back a step, her fingers gently touching the bright, stinging red mark on her cheek. Across the table, her daughter-in-law, Kara, just reached for her wine. Ruth looked at him, really looked at the man her son had become, and in that moment, she felt nothing but a cold, hard clarity. She'd spent a lifetime as his mother. Now, it was time to be her own guardian. She didn't know it yet, but by 9 a.m. the next morning, her son's name would vanish from her will. It would be scrubbed from the deed to her house. It would be erased from every bank account he had once accessed freely. The slap was the crime. The paperwork would be the consequence. That slap was the end of a story, but it was also the beginning of one. Before I take you back to that Thanksgiving dinner, before I show you the years of quiet entitlement and simmering disrespect that led to that one unforgivable moment, I just want to pause and say hello. I know you're out there listening. Maybe you're here because you know what it feels like to be the one who gives everything, only to be met with unkindness. My name is Ruth. And this is the story of how I stopped playing the victim and started rewriting my own legacy. If you are already invested in this story, and if you believe that a person's dignity is worth defending, it would mean the world to me if you'd hit that like button. It lets me know you're here. And be sure to subscribe, because the story of how it all unraveled is a lesson you will not want to miss. The house smelled like my mother. It was 2:30 p.m. on Thanksgiving, and the scent of roast turkey, sage, and sweet potatoes glazed with brown sugar filled every room. I looked at the dining table, my mother's polished silver gleaming under the candlelight. 11 place settings for 11 people I loved, or at least 11 people I was supposed to love. I was a retired teacher. My life, since my husband passed, was quiet. This dinner, this was everything to me. A simple, kind meal. That's all I wanted. The front door slammed, and I didn't have to turn around. That sound, heavy, impatient, careless, was Jordan. He walked into the dining room, already pulling at his collar. His wife, Kara, trailed behind him, her lips pursed in that tight, familiar way that meant they'd been fighting in the car. "You're late," I said, my voice gentle. I was starting to worry. Jordan scoffed. He tossed his keys onto the antique entry table, knocking over a small porcelain turkey I'd had since 1993. "We said we'd come when we could, Mom. Traffic." Kara just mumbled, "Smells good," and didn't meet my eyes. By 3 p.m., we were all seated. I was at the head of the table. Jordan was at the other end, his face buried in his phone. I cleared my throat, just wanting to start the meal. I just wanted to say thank you all for being here. I know it's not always easy, but can we skip the monologue and just eat? Jordan snapped. He didn't look up from his phone. Some of us actually have plans later. The table went silent, a ripple of sharp discomfort. My elderly neighbor, Lydia, who I'd invited so she wouldn't be alone, looked down at her plate. I forced a smile. I looked at my son. "Jordan, I just hope we can share one meal without someone being unkind." That was all it took. Jordan's chair screeched as he shoved it back. "Unkind?" he spat, his voice rising. "You're calling me unkind in front of everyone?" "Jordan, please," Kara hissed, grabbing for his arm. He yanked it away. "No, I'm sick of this. I show up,
I bring my family, and it's still not good enough. You ruin everything, every single year with this saint at the table act. I'm not acting, I said quietly, my voice calm, though my heart was starting to hammer. And I'm not raising my voice. Please sit down. And then he stood up. He walked from his end of the table to mine. Everyone froze. Kara's hand flew to her mouth. He stood over me, and he slapped me. The sound was sharp, a crack. It echoed in the stunned silence. I staggered back into my chair, my hand flying to my cheek. One of the children at the other end of the table started to cry. Jordan just stood there, breathing hard. I righted myself. I could feel the heat, the ugly purple bloom already starting under my skin. I looked at him. Really looked at him. This wasn't the boy I'd raised. This was a stranger, full of rage. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I took a slow, steadying breath, and in a voice that was low, clear, and cold, I said, "Thank you, Jordan." He blinked, stunned by the calm. "You're insane," he muttered. "No, I'm not. You just made everything perfectly clear." He stared at me, then turned and stormed out of the house. Kara and the kids scrambled after him. The room was left in chaos. I sat there for a moment, the silence roaring. Then I picked up my serving spoon, scooped a small portion of mashed potatoes onto my plate, and took a bite. My hand wasn't even shaking. The slap hadn't broken me. It had focused me. That night, after everyone had left, I walked to my desk, I sat down, and pulled out a notepad, and I wrote 2 words: "Call Vanessa." She was my estate attorney. The next morning, I picked up the phone. "Vanessa," I said, "I'm ready to change my entire will."
The next morning, Friday, November 25th, I was at my lawyer's office by 9 a.m. sharp. The bruise on my cheek was a dark, ugly purple. I hadn't bothered to cover it with makeup. I wanted Vanessa to see it. Vanessa Green was my estate attorney. She was a sharp, no-nonsense woman in her 40s. She took one look at my face and her professional demeanor vanished. "Ruth, my God, what happened?" "My son happened," I said. I sat down, opened my phone, and played the audio memo I'd made, the one with the date and time of the incident. He slapped me at Thanksgiving dinner in front of 11 guests. Vanessa's face hardened. "That is assault, Ruth. We can file a police report right now. We can get a restraining order." "I want that," I said, "but I want more. I want him out. Out of my will, out of my house, out of my life. I want to know what, legally, I can do to ensure he never gets another penny from me." She nodded, all business again. "Okay. The slap is our behavioral clause, just as we discussed, but Jordan will contest it. He'll claim he was provoked. He'll claim you were confused or emotional. He'll try to have you declared incompetent. To make this stick, a judge will want to see more than one incident. We need to prove this wasn't an accident. We need to prove intent." "Intent?" I asked. "We need proof," she said, "that this was part of a larger malicious plan, financial malice, premeditation. If we just have the slab, a judge might see it as a family dispute. If we have financial abuse, that's a different, much more serious crime. Go home, Ruth. Look everywhere. He's gotten comfortable. I promise you, he's made a mistake." I drove home, Vanessa's words ringing in my ears. "He's made a mistake." I sat at my desk. I was a 68-year-old woman, but I was not a fool. I knew my son. Jordan was arrogant, but he was also lazy, and he was careless. In the bottom drawer of my desk was an old iPad he'd left behind years ago. He'd said it was too slow. He'd never bothered to log out. I turned it on. The screen glowed to life, and so did his iMessage account, still linked. My hands were steady. I opened his messages.
The thread between him and his wife, Kara, was right at the top. I scrolled up, my blood turning to ice as I read. Kara, how's your mom? Is she still acting cold? Jordan, she's fine. Stop asking. Did you get into the bank account yet? Kara, not yet. She's paranoid since the summer. She keeps asking questions. Jordan, just get it done. We need that money for the new house.
I scrolled further, back to the week before Thanksgiving. We can't keep waiting for her to give us the house, Jordan. She's too stubborn. I know. Don't worry. This Thanksgiving, I have a plan. I'll make her see she's not in control anymore. I'll provoke her, she'll get emotional, and we can use that. Confused old woman. It's the perfect play. What if she fights back? Fights back? She's a retired teacher with a bad hip. What's she gonna do? My breath caught. It wasn't an accident. The fight, the insults, it was premeditated. He had planned to provoke me, to make me look confused and emotional so they could build a case for elder abuse and take control of my estate. The slap? The slap might not have been planned, but the cruelty was. And then I saw it. The last message from just 2 weeks ago. The message that sealed his fate. What if she won't give in? What if she just hangs on forever? Don't worry, she'll be dead in a decade. We just have to smile till then. She'll be dead in a decade. We just have to smile till then. I sat back in my chair. The house was silent. I wasn't just dealing with an entitled son who had an anger problem. I was dealing with a pair of predators who were actively waiting for me to die so they could get my house. I screenshotted every single message. I had the intent. Now I needed the financial malice. I went to my filing cabinet, the one Jordan had helped me organize last spring. He'd called it streamlining. I now called it burying evidence. I pulled open the drawer labeled mortgage. He had helped me refinance last year. He'd handled all the paperwork. I pulled out the thick folder. I went through it, page by page. And then I found it, a mortgage pre-approval document. It wasn't for my loan. It was a new loan application for his new house with my name forged on the cosigner line. He had tried to use my home, my credit, to secure his new property, and he forged my signature to do it. I had it. The intent, the financial malice, the conspiracy. I was about to call Vanessa when the mail arrived. I sorted through it, bills, catalogs, and a thin white envelope. It was from a company I didn't recognize, Langley Regional Finance. I opened it. It was an employment verification form for Jordan, and my name, Ruth E. Langford, was listed at the top as his personal character referee. He was applying for a new job, a finance job, and had once again forged my name as a reference. This was the final insult. He didn't just hit me. He didn't just try to steal from me. He was actively using me, using my good name, my reputation as a teacher in this community to build his own fraudulent life. I didn't get angry. I got organized. I took the forged mortgage document. I took the fake job reference. I took the screenshots of his text messages. I put them all in a neat red legal binder. Then I called my son. "Jordan," I said, my voice perfectly calm, "your wife texted me. You're worried about me. Why don't you both come over tonight? We need to talk." Jordan and Kara sent me 2 more texts that day. "Mom, we're worried. Please just talk to us." I ignored them. By 5 p.m., they were at my door, ringing the bell, just as I knew they would be. They were sloppy. They were panicking. They were afraid I was calling the police about the slap. They had no idea I already had the proof of their real crime. I let them ring twice before I opened the door. Jordan tried to look relieved. Kara just looked terrified. "Mom," Jordan started, "you weren't answering. We were worried about you." "Were you?" I said. I stepped aside. "Come in." They walked into the living room and stopped. There was a woman sitting in my armchair, holding a red leather briefcase. She looked to be in her 40s, with a sharp suit and an even sharper gaze. "Who's this?" Jordan asked, his concern instantly evaporating, replaced by suspicion. "This is my friend, Vanessa," I said calmly. "She's just here to listen. Please, sit." They sat awkwardly on the sofa. Kara immediately jumped in, just as I expected. "Ruth, we just want to clear the air," she said, her voice strained. "Jordan, he's been under so much stress. The childhood stuff. You know he doesn't handle emotion well." "It wasn't about you, Mom," Jordan said, picking up his cue. "You know how you can be. You provoked me. You were judging me at the table." I just stared at them. I let them talk. For 10 minutes, I listened to them dance around the truth, a pathetic, rehearsed performance of non-apologies. "He didn't mean it. You pushed me. We both said things we regret." Finally, I held up my hand. "That's enough," I said. The silence in the room was absolute. "You're right, Jordan," I said, standing up and walking to my desk. "You have been under a lot of stress. It must be very difficult planning to have someone declared incompetent." Kara's face went white. "What? We never said that." "You didn't have to," I said. I picked up the red legal binder I had prepared. "You wrote it." I walked over and dropped the stack of printed-out papers onto the coffee table in front of them. "I believe this was your plan, Jordan, to provoke me at Thanksgiving, to make me look confused and emotional." Jordan's face was frozen. He stared at his own words. He saw the messages about the bank account. He saw the plan. "And Kara," I said, my voice dangerously quiet, This was my favorite part. The part where you were just waiting for me to, what was it, be dead in a decade? The part where you just had to smile till then?" Kara looked like she was going to be sick. "Where did you get this?" she stammered. "You left your digital life logged into an iPad at my house. You were careless. You thought I was too old, too stupid, and too confused to ever find it. You were wrong." Jordan stood up, his face purple with rage. "This is private. You can't. This is entrapment." "No," Vanessa said, speaking for the first time. She stood up, her voice cutting through the room like a razor. "This is evidence. My name is Vanessa Green. I'm Mrs. Langley's attorney." Kara let out a small, terrified squeak. Vanessa opened her red legal briefcase. "Let's be very clear about what happens now. What you're looking at are printed copies of a conspiracy to commit fraud. But that's not all we found." She pulled out another file. "This is a mortgage pre-approval application from 2022, the one you used to try and secure a loan for your new house, the one with your mother's forged signature as a co-signer." Jordan's color vanished. He looked like he was going to faint.
"And this," Vanessa continued, "is an employment verification form for Langley Regional Finance. It lists Ruth as your personal character referee. Another forgery." Vanessa smiled, a cold, sharp smile. "You didn't just plan to commit fraud, Jordan. You've been actively committing it for over a year. And this, Vanessa said, pulling out the last set of documents, this is a restraining order. It's effective immediately. You will stay 300 feet away from Ruth, her home, and her property. You will not contact her, her friends, or her financial institutions. You can't do this, Jordan yelled, finding his voice. I'm her son. It was one mistake. Was it? I asked. I stepped forward. Was it a mistake when you forged my name on a mortgage? Was it a mistake when you wrote that you were just waiting for me to die? Or was it just a mistake when you slapped me? And finally, Vanessa said, this is a formal notice. A civil suit is being filed against you and your wife for financial manipulation, identity theft, and forgery. We're also filing a police report for the assault at Thanksgiving. We have 11 witnesses. Jordan and Kara just stared, completely and totally broken. Get out of my house, I said. My voice didn't shake. Jordan looked at me, his eyes wide with panic. Mom, please, the house, the money, my job, you'll ruin us. I walked to the door and opened it. I looked at the man I had raised, the man who had waited for me to die. No, Jordan, you already ruined yourselves. I just stopped you from ruining me. Now get out. They walked out, not as predators, but as what they truly were, defeated. I closed the door, I locked it, and for the first time in a year, I walked into my kitchen and made a cup of tea, and my hands were perfectly, completely steady.